Hemshech Chaim Beis, Volume 1, we're up to chapter 174, page 352, Shinun Beis, Perek Kuf Ayin Daled. We're in the middle of the discourse, the end. This is the last chapter of the Maimer V'Eschanon, discourse 43. So we're in the middle of the discussion about the interface that is Torah. Torah, Stakel, Kutshe B'richu, Stakel Baraisa Bar Alma. God looked into the Torah, created the world. We explained that this is the level of Chachma of Ak. Torah comes from Chachma of Ak, the wisdom of Ak. Odom Kadmon is the vision, the Skira Achas, Mabit B'Skira Achas. The one snapshot of all of existence from beginning to the end of time, and all of space and time. It's all there in the form of a klal. And then, as it unfolds, it's in a prat. The Torah too is in klal and prat, as we learned. There's the Torah b'chlal, Echshuma Nitna, and there's Megillah Nitna, Megillah, where it comes on the details, each in its specific time, each in its specific area, specific mitzvahs. To explain this, the Rebbe Rashab went into a longer discussion of the two aspects in Torah, two dimensions in Torah. All to explain this column, what are the two dimensions of Torah? So he uses it, he explains it through the lens of the story with David HaMelech. But Chazal say David's midas karisalahu, that David called the Torah's midas, and he was criticized, punished for that. So he explains there's two levels in Torah. David was focusing on the outer dimension of Torah, how it affects the world. Why? Because David, due to all his suffering and pain, so the Torah, he came to the contemplation, alleviating the pain, was that to realize that everything in the world is all dependent on one digduk, one detail in the Torah. It's one aspect. Second thing, zmiris, from the word lezamer aritzim, to uproot weeds, because through the Torah, like he explained, the two different ways, cheret pifias, the sword of the two double-edged sword, you cut off the supply, you choke the energy from the negative forces, which is what caused David his troubles. And that was how he looked at the Torah as being a force that did that. Why was he punished? Because that's not the ikar of Torah. That's the outside dimension of Torah. That's how Torah relates to existence. The inner dimension of Torah, as we learned, is called Shashua HaMelech Batz Museh. It's an expression from Emek HaMelech, actually. It's not brought in other Kisvei Arizal. Emek HaMelech, the Alter Rebbe brings it. Shashua HaMelech Batz Museh is actually a mashal. It means the toys, or the playthings, or the games, the pleasures that the king does, it's asking that he does in his own private place. It's using a very simple mashal, but you have many times in Medrash a mashal of a king. So it's the way the king presents in a glorious way his glorious majesty to the world, to his subjects, comes out. But what does the king do in his privacy of his own place? So you have many places. Like Chassidus, for example, brings the example of a tzipur medaberes to explain the chiddush, the innovation of transforming this world. It brings about a king who's very intrigued by a speaking bird, a parakeet or a parrot. So you find examples like this, Gashmizik examples of kings and so on. But what does a king do in his private chambers? She has his own entertainment, so to speak. Obviously, we're talking here Lahavdul and Kavyochel. So the Eibishter, so to speak, not as he relates to existence, but how as he relates to himself, Kavyochel. It's all, so to speak, Shashul Mazmas Museh. That's what Torah really is. Torah is God's internal pleasure, which he then shared. Chem de Gnuza, B'Lashon HaChazal. What does the Chazal say? Chem de Gnuza. A secret treasure. When the Malachim say to Hashem, why are you giving it to them, to the people? It's a secret, your secret treasure. So Shashul Avach Batz Museh. That is the real nature of Torah, the true. So we explained the last chapter, in chapter Kuf Ayin Gimel, that there's the outer dimension of Torah is what is connected to existence, that gives existence sustenance. But the inner dimension, the Tainug, is Ein Lo Sikus. It does not have any limits, as opposed to the outer dimension. And this is Pnimius HaTorah. Explain, this is what we call Taimim Nekudis Tagan Esis. So the Esis HaTorah is the outer dimension, the letters. But you go into the Taimei Torah, the Taimim, which is the song, as he explained, that is the inner. He explained that's the two things, Shira and Zimra. Shira is Bepeh, without a Keli. David said, Zmiris Ha'elichu. He was focusing on the Torahs already in a Keli, already relating to existence. And that's why he was criticized and punished, because he was focusing on the so-called body of Torah and not on its Now, we discussed at length, what does that mean? It means, relatively speaking, his level, the fact that of course the Torah also has the outer dimension. But it came down to there's too much focus on that as opposed to the inner. Now, it doesn't say it here, but other places say this is connected to why David also forgot about how to carry the Odin. Masa because you're supposed to carry it on the shoulder, instead they carried it they carried it on the wagons. So Chassidus explains that it's dependent on this because it was the focus on the outer dimension instead of the inner dimension.
Shikha is synonymous with Charayim, the outer dimension.
That's one aspect. But also, but when you carry the Torah, why do you have to carry it by Makosov? Because there's supposed to be no Kelim involved, no Agolos, only human beings, and they also faced each other. Ponim, Shrekan Acharayim. And David, because he focused on the Acharayim, the outer, so that caused him, in other words, it wasn't just, why did he forget that? He could have forgotten a lot of things. So it was because it was a lapse, so to speak, in that focus. Which you can justify. David HaMelech, he was consumed with troubles, and he's losing the Torah to help. But Badakus, so subtly, it's the outer dimension. It says, "V'nena shazad the ikra Torah hu b'chinas ha'er the Torah b'chinas neshama v'neshama l'neshama." So b'chinas ha'shashuim the Torah. I'm reading the end of the chapter 173, the bottom of page 351.
8 lines.
Yeah. Behind the Torah k'meishi b'chinas chachma gdum medak. B'zein in time in the Torah b'chinas shir the Torah. Shirei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Does it say shirei? Belayla shirei imi, shirei kri. But they write kri because it says shira. They say and the ksiv is shira, but the kri is supposed to be shira his imi. What's the deal? Can shira should be imi? Okay, but the bottom line is the shira shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the imke b'primiusa, the inner dimension of Torah. He brings from Ageres HaKedesh because Pnimius is Simchas Levav and Shashuv El Kavyochel Simchas Lev Shashuv Amelach Dakutzah B'Richu Shemeshtasheh Ba Ki Elikim Haven Darko. So we were just talking about Seidei. It's the real Seidei of the Torah is not something we know. It's the Eberstein Haven Darko. He knows the real dimension. Bezer Shamar HaKosov Etzle Shashuyim. That's where the pasuk says that it's Shashuyim. Even though it says Ve'eh Shashuyim, but it goes on what it says before Ve'eh Etzle Omen. Then it says Ve'eh Shashuyim. That means Etzloi Dafke. So Shashuyim Etzloi. So it's a din dimension. V'alzemer Ve'eh Etzloi Omen Al Tikromen Elu Uman. We didn't get clarity on that, what that meant.
In the Tanya, it's brought in Tanya at the end of that.
He does say that? Yeah, he does bring it there, it's true. The literal Ve'eh Etzloi Omen means Amen from the word, I believe, like trust, imun. You say al tikriman ela uman. Uman is from the word umnis, like work. But Lecheres wants to say faket here, so I'm not sure.
In the translation,
right?
You're saying amen. Why it's like amen?
As I said, al tikra amen ela uman. The vav says the vav after the mem. He says, "Al tikra with the vav, but actually uman."
In the English translation, it says, it says there that don't say that I'm
Don't say what?
I forget the first word. Use the Russian nurture, and it says, "I'll take uman, uman." Don't say that I'm doing whatever the proper with the first idea present, but it says I'm nurturing.
Don't say nurturing, or don't say nurturing.
Don't say whatever. It says nurturing.
Yeah. Nurture is education.
Nurturing. In other words, it seems to be
don't say nurture or do say nurture.
Do say nurturing. In other words, mashpia. Did you have the English, Tanya? Or Weinberg? No.
Somewhere maybe.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So uman is. Don't say nurturing, do say nurturing. He says do say. He's like faket.
In other words, it was mashpia, the muffins, what it sounds.
It should be mashpia.
Yeah, but
don't say what then.
Gosh, I don't remember.
Don't say that he's mashpia.
He's saying the opposite.
You have his Hebrew sefer.
It just means that it was very close.
It means that he was mashpia to something. Right. That's what
with the pasuk. It's in Ishaya, right?
Yeah.
Maybe don't say that. You want to say Shashuya Melech Batzmusay. not that he's a mashpia. Omein is a mashpia. Don't say Omein, Uman. Uman means that this is his own personal.
That's Bapashtas. That's what that, right. Don't say Omen that he's affecting others, but Uman that it's his thing. Like so-called his handiwork. His craft. That's the right word, craft. Uman is definitely craft. Omen. Yeah, Omen is from the word like Omen Nesadasa, right? That would be Hashpah. It's the opposite. And don't say the Hashpah, say that it's Uman, it's his craft. Okay, fine. And that was an Anish. So now we continue chapter 174. Remember, this is still all coming to explain Torah as the klal and prat of Torah. The David, in other words, was focusing more on the prat, how it relates, and this Torah how it is be'etzem. And here in the interface, we want to be able to connect Hashem, not just the Torah as it relates to us, because many places, for example, it says don't into Nigla and Chassidus. The Nigla and Chassidus is that Nigla focuses how the Torah addresses worldly matters. So he speaks in Kuntres Eitz Chaim from the Rebbe Rasha, based on the Geras HaKedush Simach Chavov, based on the Zohar Ay Mehem. What does he say? That in Primus HaTorah less Tom and Le Machlekes Levidos. That Nigla is called Eitz Adas, Tevara. Primus HaTorah is called Eitz Chaim. So he asked the famous question the Alter Rebbe asks, how could you call Torah Eitz Adas, Tevara? There's Dra and Torah. So he says, it doesn't start Tevara, it's a Torah talks about Tevara. Nizikin. Torah talks about a world that deals with emes and sheker. So, because it talks about it, the Torah is relating to it. So it's already giving a so-called Nesinus Malkam space. So he explains there, in the Kuntres Eitz Chaim, the Rebbe Rashab wrote that as a introduction to Temchet Mimim, why he's establishing the yeshiva. So once you're learning about it, so in a Chanami, you're elevating it, but on the other hand, you're also involved in it. You're parkazach there. So you can't have the real bittul that Primus said, because Primus HaTorah is focusing on God. Like Borcha B'Torah Tchila. Hello. Very nice. And Nigla Torah is also godly, but it's easier to forget there's a God, because you could be so busy with the details of how the Torah is applying to the legalities of the matter. And Primus HaTorah is meant to, so you could be immersed in that and forget that there's in Primus HaTorah you're talking about God all the time.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
You also speak about Sitra Acha, clippers, and concealments, Helen Behazir all the time in Chassidus. So you would think that would be in Netinas Makom.
No, let's see you come up with an answer. No, go ahead. Any thought?
I mean,
think about it a moment.
One is a revealed rod in the world of Asiya, and one is not.
No, but the answer is very simple. In Primus HaTorah, you're talking Tzimtzum and Helam, how God is making that Tzimtzum and Helam. In Nigla, you're not talking that God's making it. In Nigla already says, there's a world. Here, Reuven has business deal with Shimon. Shimon lies. Reuven lies. Are they true? They're not true. You're talking about worldly matters. In Primus HaTorah, you're talking how God made a Tzimtzum. So yes, you talk about Sitzach, because you're talking about God creating a world, but the focus is on the creator, not on the product. Nigla, the focus on the product. That's the thing. So you could forget for a moment. Then Chassidus, if they talk about Sitzach, you don't forget a second there's God. Because Chassidus is telling you this is God concealing himself. See the difference? That's exactly the point. That if you want to relate, there's two aspects to what we've been talking about, the interface. There's focusing on us relating to the divine, and then there's the focusing on God as God is on His terms. Primus HaTorah is God on His terms. Nigla Torah is God relating to existence. Also important, and what God Hashem wants it. And listen, same Chaytem Chatmim, the Rebbe Rashab established, Nigla was learned many more hours than Primus HaTorah. Because the point is, Kavan is to be Mevar of the world. Just like there's 6 days of the week, and only one day in the week is Shabbos.
Yes.
So
Rashab, when he established Chatmim, he didn't know how many hours to learn Chassidus.
Right.
He didn't know how many hours to learn Chassidus.
I think that they established it in 3 hours, right?
4 hours. So the government officials came, they wanted them to learn secular subjects. And they said they need to learn secular subjects for 4 hours. So the Rebbe Rashab understood from that
so it used to be 4 hours, now it's 3. Now it's 3.
Yeah, no,
1.5.
America was changed.
Why? Well, it used to be 7:30 to 9:30 or 7 to 9.
It used to be at 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night.
Until America?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. Interesting.
4 hours in the Chassidus?
Yeah.
And Nigla was the Nigla was the rest. The Nigla is
8 hours.
from 11 till 3, right? What was it? 11 till 2.
It was 8 hours.
And then from 3:30 to 7.
From 3:15 probably till 7.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 8. Double. So that's what it says. And it says on Shabbos you're supposed to learn Pnimius HaTeira. This is the whole Shana. 2/3 to learn 2/3 Pnimius, 1/3 this, or completely Pnimius. So, but yet there's 6 days of the week is Nigla. Because 6 days of the week we're at work because the Kavanah is Dida B'Takpenim. But if you want to remember whose God is, you're going to remember it much more when you learn Chassidus than when you learn Nigla. Just like you're going to remember God more on Shabbos than you're going to remember Him in the work, even though the Kavanah is the work. Look, the goal is the transformation of existence, but in transformation you need to have the element of this is the interface. Look, it's bottom line, it's a balance. We're not talking about one or the other, we're just talking about the mila of each. If you remember, this is critical because in the beginning of this second part of the Hemshech, what was the first point that he made? What's the kavanah of the Eir HaBligvul? To bring bittul into existence. The Eir HaGvul is to create existence and to sustain it. And even though the bittul also creates bittul when you think, but it's ultimately a bittul on the terms of existence, so it can't really be complete. The energy that creates existence can't really nullify existence because it's measured toward it. It's a rotzen. It's the Eir HaBligvul, the Kesser, the Makif, and so on that brings that in. So it's about bringing these two together. In Torah, you could say the Eir HaBligvul is Pnimius, and Nigla is Eir HaGvul. Even though in Nigla also you could say Nigla is also when it says Torah Ein Le Sekusim, because obviously there's a scholars, but it's all the Fiyarach. It fits beautifully. I remember we talked in Torah too. The Medida of Torah is not real Medida. The world's Medida, the measurements of the world, that's real, the real structure. When the Torah says do a mitzvah with a shear, it's because God is saying I want a shear. It's not because there's a fundamental limit. Yeah, that's key. Look, it's just unbelievable, this stuff.
While you're doing the shear, you're connected to the Bligvul.
And to the Gvul, that's the whole thing.
So it's not really a shear, because even while you're holding on to it, you're really connected.
Exactly, and yet it is a shear, like Milka Mer Neina Mina Mida. It is Mida.
Right.
For Beida.
It's a handle for you to get higher.
Yeah.
Why?
But remember, it's deeper, because you want to be Mavada Gvul. You're not looking to eliminate the Gvul. You're looking to show that the Gvul of the Welt is really God's expression of the divine. It's very, very powerful.
Such a Isnagdus for the limud of Pnimius Torah that goes on even before the Isnagdus. Is it only to see that was hundreds of years before?
It wasn't just a Snagdus Lamata, it was also a Snagdus Lamaila. There's Pnimius HaTorah is a Shashua Melech Batzmuseh. So first of all, when you reveal the inner secrets, it's always dangerous. It may get in the wrong hands. Em der Shemaisa Merkov Ela B'Yochid. It's a Mishnah. Secondly, get in the wrong hands. Look, Shapsai Tzvi. It can be very deep. So it was always with care. And even when the Alter Rebbe started revealing it, so the Bavus the Maisa Chassidim cried, and the Maisa about the Alter Rebbe, who is it that the story goes with that he saw a blettel Chassidus Dreitzer Valgetzach off the floor, Pinchas Koritzer, and that's when the Alter Rebbe gave the mashal of the Ben Melech. That when he's sick, imagine, you have to rely that the Ben Melech is sick to the point he's on his deathbed. And the only way to save him is to crush the Keser Melech. You're crushing. You're not saying it's a nice gila. You're crushing the Keser Melech. You can't return it back to the crown. In order to Tomer ain't drop. So when the Cheshach is so deep, Torah is, at the end of the day, it's Yisrael Kodem L'Torah. The second reason is because it's Me'ein, it's the Teimer Chaim Zocha of Lasid Lavi. So Pnimius HaTorah was always, even up in Nigla, Pnimius HaTorah is the domain of Mashiach's time. So to give something in Golas from Mashiach is not a simple matter. There's a lot of consequences of that. Look, you could say even Lamed Ches, that had his heart attack when he started giving out Ayin Beis. Something related to that. So we don't really understand. But that's what's the big thing. Be Megal Torah. G'day Samais. Alter Rebbe is being Megal Torah. Get arrested because revealing Torah. I would understand someone gets arrested for not revealing Torah. There's so many Rishoyim in the world, none of them get arrested. Who gets arrested? The Alter Rebbe, because Megal too much Torah. Because the Sitra Achre also knows the stakes. Pnimius HaTorah is the power to change the world. Nigla doesn't have the power to change the world. Or maybe it did have the power in the previous generations, because when they learned Nigla, it was Duraganum and Pnimius. But it has the power, because they knew, Moshe Rabbeinu taught a pasuk, it wasn't just the Hilchos Nezikin. But as the generations passed, this became more concealed. I mean, this is very common. But if you apply it, it's very, very profound. I would put it this way. Look, in this world, B'chlal, one doesn't reveal their deepest, their liba lepuma legalia, right? We don't reveal your deepest feelings, your intimate feelings about something.
You feel vulnerable.
First of all, the main reason is not because you're ashamed necessarily, because you don't. There's a world that's no unique sachet. To put it in more gashmistic terms, before Chet Tzadas, when the world is pure, lo yizbayshushu. There was no garments. They didn't have to be clothing, because sexual identity was nothing to be ashamed of. It was like a newborn child. There's no clip in the world. When there's nothing negative, what's wrong? God created you this way. It's when you become a mitzias and a yesh, and now I have so-called a sexual identity and feelings, then you become ashamed. And then it's healthy to be ashamed, because you know that there's things that are intimate and things that are not. Why is Kedai Kodesh Kodashim covered? Which is the essence of tznius. Tznius is not because of shame, or because something is dirty or embarrassing. It's because it's so holy. In an unholy world, you cover for dignity purposes. That's the whole point of real tznius. It's dignity. That's why there's tznius even if nobody's watching. Even on your own, there's tznius. Because the Hasna Lechas im Hashem Alekecha goes on the Kohanim. Nothing to do with. There was nothing to do with sexual. There's to do with or covering. You're going into the Beis Hamikdash. You got to walk with dignity. You walk like you have to walk like a mensch, not like not self-absorbed basically. So because it's easier to focus obviously on the externals. But what is tznius be'etzem? Tznius is dignity. That's what tznius is. Exactly. Kol kvuda v'smol k'pnim. And the Ramban, when he writes the famous letter that everybody uses, Chassanim they teach, that the first lines he says now that the union of intimacy is not meguna, and then what is it called? Meguna or dover mos. He says that sexuality is not something that is embarrassing or disgusting or dirty. He was basically negating the Christian view, because it infiltrated Jewish life, even today, then and for sure today. The whole idea of fear, people are going to be machshel each other. Obviously, but that's the most base element. The beauty is the other way around. Sexuality is Kodesh Kodashim. It's the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies you cover not because there's shame, because a pure environment in a world that's not pure, it has to be protected. There shouldn't be a unique sechetzenim and so on. I mean, imagine we taught our children sexuality that way. It's the purest part of you, not the ugliest part of you, and you got to watch for it because it's dangerous. It's the purest part in an impure world. Now I'm saying it only because so when you megala pnimius things in the velvus is chetzenis, it's trouble. So the megala shashur melav atzmus pnimius atayre in avelvus and nishtazei clean, that's not so clean or pure, is not a simple matter. That's why there's a big resistance to it. On the other hand, there's another resistance because the Sitra Achra knows the stakes. It doesn't want a war. It's easy to fight with Abal Niglek. It's hard to fight with Chassidus, because Chassidus talks about God. Sam Ovis, Sam Chaim. In Nigla, it's easy to be a novel B'Rishus HaTeirah. Now you say to me, well, a lot of people learn Chassidus are also. So frankly, they're not learning Chassidus. They're learning Chassidus like they learn Nigla, like it's technical. They took to heart 1 second. That says, that's the bottom line. I just was thinking about it this morning. I was telling the story. Shabbos, I said, it's unbelievable. It's so appropriate today for after Gimel Tammuz. I'm saying it only because we're talking about concealments and so on. At Tzemach Tzedek, when the Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, his Rebbetzin passed away, I told the story already. 5 years before the Tzemach Tzedek, it's similar to and Tzemach Tzedek went into seclusion. A famous story, everything that he said, until they told him that the Isha Teva is like a Teva is called Isha. Whatever. He says, Nechsha, what he said? Nechsha, what's the Lashon? Nechsha, it's a Lashon in the Gemara, right? It says, Elam Chashir Badi. But the Gemara, the Rebbe brought the Gemara, Ishas Neurim, is Sanhedrin, So he was seclusion, no yechidus, no maimarim. The news came there's going to be a maimer chassidus. Chassidim gathered. And Reb Hillel Paritcher, who was already older chassid, great chassid, came as well. It was hard for him because he was not well. It was the last years of his life. And they waited an hour, 2 hours in Gan Eden Natachton. Then the Tzemach Tzedek, nothing's happening. And Reb Hillel had to go out because he wasn't feeling well. He hears two young people saying, they spoke about the Rebbe in an inappropriate way. Relatively, they said, I don't know, what could you do? The Rebbe has lost his wife, so he's like depressed or something. He's not feeling good. He's in a bad mood or whatever. I don't know the words they used. So he got so disturbed, suddenly he got all his energy back. He went over to them and said to them, Shvenzelach, Shvenzelach, Shvenzelach. You know what that means? Shvenzelach, it's like a little squirts. Schwanz is a tail. Schwanz is, but it's a derogatory term. You say someone's an idiot, or something like that, or a little pipsqueak, whatever. So he says, "What's meant it? As a Rebbe is eigen and nose mitamoil. What do you think? A Rebbe is eyes, nose, and a nose and a mouth. A Rebbe is a lakus. Ubeshas da helm of a lakus, da helm of a Rebbe. A Rebbe is godliness, and when there's a helm, a concealment, and godliness is a concealment on the Rebbe. Think about that moment. So, I was saying, that's not only now, even when we saw the Rebbe Gashmis physically, it was a schuz that our graba eyes could see a lakus. That's what it was. It wasn't the opposite, that was the Rebbe, and so, it's godliness. It's godliness. The bittul. And then you say you don't see it anymore. You're talking about your eyes. The godliness doesn't change. So there's a helam on the lukus. That's what a godly thing is. That when there's a helam on godliness, there's a helam on the Rebbe. So on the contrary, if you don't see the Rebbe, it means there's a helam on godliness. That's the problem here. So the solution is to bring godliness back into the picture. There's no magic tricks. That's what it comes down to. Rebbe is a lukus. Anyway, why am I saying it? I don't know why I'm saying it. I just decided to say it. And I think it's a tremendous...
You bring godliness.
100%, there's no question. And it's that I told the second story. The second story was the same. Hillel Paritcher would go into Yechidus. He was last. He would go on last in Yechidus because he had to talk about other Chassidim. A lot of Chassidim would come to him. A lot of Mishpoim, people who would come to him. So he would talk to Tzemach Tzedek about them. So those days when the Yechidus, when someone went to Yechidus, they didn't go home afterwards. They waited all night. They fabrenged and they stayed till the Rebbe finished. Get Yechidus and not get Mishlaf or get Ahim fabrenged. Ate dinner. So Rav Hillel finished Yechidus, and Chassidim waited, The Tzemach Tzedek, and he's waiting there. Tzemach Tzedek says, "What are you waiting?" He says, Rav Hillel, what else are you asking? He says, "I want the Rebbe to say a maimer." So the Rebbe says, "A maimer, not 2:00 in the morning. There's times in the Zman and Kavuyim. There's designated times." So the Rebbe stood up, and the Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek left. Rav Hillel remained there. Some Chassidim left, some Chassidim remained. This is unbelievable. And the Rebbe came back an hour later and said, "Amayim Chassidus, 3:00 in the morning." So Rab Shmuel told the story. So when he told it, he says, then they fabrenged. The Chassidim felt was that a Rebbe cannot have a kpeda on Chassidim. It's not shaykh a Rebbe. A kpeda means some grudge, some
misgiving.
Yeah. Right, a grievance. But then, when a chassid has a grievance and has a kpeda on the Rebbe, a taina, a question, something bothers him, so then, of course, you open up the channel. You're severing your connections, so there could be an effect of that. So those chassidim that went home, and when you wait for the Rebbe comes back. If you don't wait for the Rebbe, that was how they understood the story. So I'm saying it only because, it's the way, if you relate to Rebbe in the fullest sense of the word, and not with our cheshbeinus, that's what it is. Maybe in a sign, a test, but that's what it comes down to. Either Rebbe is a lakus, and if he's not, then what are you waiting for anyway? I mean, what's the point? There's no loss then. It's another human being. So I just felt I should say that.
For the record.
For you.
For the record.
For you. No, this is the truth. that is difficult. Fine, it's difficult, but it's a question of what's true. If this is the truth, that's what it is. The only focus is to look at ourselves. What are we doing to be the keli for it, right? You appreciate the stories? They're very profound stories. They're mamish negeya today.
We're waiting. But
so it's not pshat. They look at the Rebbe. Of course, look up here right now. Any magic could happen, right. But if it's about a lakus. The Eibishter could also appear right now. There's some things that we had this chuz that even though, let's put it this way, lakus was not begoli completely, he was still golos, and they had the Rebbe's begoli with us. So now I guess we don't have that luxury. Now the stakes are higher. You want me? You better bring some lakus into your life. As I get this, I know we prefer the other way. Trust me, it's much more comfortable. Ken Schlafen, Luik.
I'm still getting back to this distinction though between Eitz HaChaim and Eitz Hadas Tovra, because Chassidus Shasur Shal Melech Ras Musa, but the first B'Ksav of Chassidus is time, which is called Sefer Shal Beinani. It's talking about us. It's not talking about just godliness. Obviously, everything's God in the world, but it's talking about our avodas. Avodas Penimus, and you said the really Penimus Torah is times is Mashiach's Torah, but at the same time, it specifically was given in the time of Galus, Tanya, and Chassidus, in order to help us fight.
You still don't see a difference between that and let's say Baba Kama.
I see a difference, but I don't. It's a degree. The focus is a degree.
Sure. I'm saying, do you see a difference between Tanya, let's say, and Baba Kama, the Gemara?
Sure, of course, it's a difference.
It's not a quantitative difference.
No,
it's a qualitative difference.
Qualitative. Well, okay. I mean, everything is dealing with interface of God and man.
No, you can learn Baba Kama. You can learn Baba Kama and not even know there's a God. There's no way you can learn Tanya and not know there's a God.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we don't have a Yetzer Hara.
I understand, but
what you're saying is Chassidus is not in heaven.
Right.
Of course,
it's an interact.
It has to deal with the true realities of this world. But what is it talking about? How to overcome the battle.
Right.
Now, Gemara also talks about it. But Gemara, when you're dealing a pure halacha, where you have two people who have an argument, they go to war. You ever sit at a Din Torah?
Yes.
You can forget there's a God at a Din Torah, right? When it comes to a few dollars, right? In Chassidus, there's no such thing as a Din Torah in Chassidus. Chassidus doesn't deal with... That's not the realm of Chassidus. I'm not talking about Chassidus you can't have a Din Torah. That's not what I mean. I mean, you don't access Chassidus to deal with Choshen Mishpat, with laws in the Din Torah, because Chassidus doesn't parkazach with, you have to deal with it. There are people that lost faith just from one Din Torah, you know this, because you see how suddenly people become. The point is very simple. One talks about Elokus as obviously it's Elokus engaging the battle between good and evil and so on, but it's Elokus, and the other's talking about the actual. When you learn Chassidus, then you understand Baba Kama also differently. You understand why are we talking about Emes and Sheker? Why is Torah involved with the litigation and so on? Because the Torah is coming to be Mevarer the world.
Right.
But we're talking if you sort of speak about, if you separate the two, obviously the goal is not to separate the two. Right. To realize, that's why I say you learn 2 hours Chassidus in the morning, you daven, and then you go into the world, whether a Baruch is going to learn Gemara or someone else going to work. So then you're empowered with the Chassidus, the Lakus you learn. Now let's enter the fray, and then you have now the power. Why am I learning the Birur? Why do I need to know the Dasa of Rabbi Akiva or Abaye and Rava in some machlekas between two individuals? What do I have to find out? It's enough. I see enough wars out there. I have to learn the Gemara that people that fight with each other. And Shimon and Reuven and Shimon can't get along, because that's the whole point of Torah, to be mevarer the world as it is. That's a distinction.
And how does that relate?
And one second, I should just say, and then there's obviously Chassidus also will take a piece of Nigla and explain. And also Nigla, you learn Agadata, for example. So the Alter Rebbe writes, because it's the same Torah, but we're talking about primary Nigla, primary, not Agadata. Agadata is not the Iker, it's not the primary Torah Shabbat Peh. Obviously, when you learn Agadata and you hear the stories and Medrashim, there of course, and there's Gemaras that talk completely about God. There are discussions about God. It's just not, right. It would be a simple example would be you're learning, you're let's say in contract with someone. You have a dispute, Let's say you're a friend with this person, and then you start fighting about it. And you go and you're dealing with the business of it. And you forget completely that you were once friends, and you forget there's a God. You're so busy with winning or losing this case. That would be the example. Someone learning Nigla, they're doing everything by the letter, but they forgot the Ikka. And then someone says to you, this guy's your brother. You say, yeah, you're right. Thank you for reminding me. In other words, it's easy to forget that there's a bigger picture here.
And just the question about what you talking about garments. Is it brought down anywhere that in times of Gula Shlema, when they have the Beis Hamikdash Shlishi, it says that we're going to be like Adam or Rishon before?
It's most likely after the Chad Charuv, which is real transformations. Yes.
We won't need garments.
Probably not.
It's going to be even stronger, probably.
But there's later stages. 1 second. That has to come after.
The Kohen's going to go into the Beis Hamikdash without.
No, you have to say that's later stages, because even Tchis.
Without clothing.
The chiyuv is to have
Clothing
clothing.
They made the big day kahuna you would need, but what about underneath?
No, but that could be begodim for til shem l'kovedel teferes, not for protection.
The Levium.
No, begodim. 1 second. Begodim as you have to remember this. Right, exactly. We're not talking about protection and concealment. We're talking about for kovedel teferes. That's like an ornament. That's like jewelry. That's a different role that levushim have. For that purpose, they may have levushim. I've not seen it specifically stated, but one thing is for sure: Tchias HaMesim clearly talks about whether they'll come with it. There's a whole shalos about levushim, tachrichim, and all that shatnez. So clearly, that even Tchias HaMesim there'll still be garments. But the Chad Charuv is once the world goes into a whole new stage. It's called Chad Charuv. That everything from the past is a whole new reality. Then it's hard to it could be a whole different picture. There's another point you have to make. Remember that even though it came because of Chet Eitzadas, a lot of things that came due to a Chet afterwards assume Kedusha to it. So we don't just wear garments only because of that. Now the garments have also other roles to play. So anyway, you want to know if it's going to be a big nudist colony.
No,
that's what you want to know.
I want to know if I should sell. I wanted to know if I shall.
Yeah, but don't look forward to it, because even if you had, there won't be tigers.
No, I wanted to know if I should sell short my Jones of New York stock.
Well, you know the story with. No. You know the debate. The two tailors hear Mashiach is coming, and the two tailors they hear Mashiach is coming. One of them is in a good mood, one's in a bad mood. So the guy says, "Why are you in a bad mood?" So he says, "Because." Why are you in a good mood? He says, "Because soon Mashiach is coming. There'll be Tchias HaMesim, and everyone's going to need garments." And we'll make a killing, tailors. We'll be making garments for millions of people. And the other guy says, yeah, but you know how many guys rising are tailors themselves? And more tailors from them. So the final answer is yes, but they don't know the latest style. Okay. Elias, you position yourself economically to Mashiach's coming. I wish somebody, by the way, would think like that. That would be real. They're really thinking. And they're actually investing in the future. Real futures. That's the futures. So l'cheir tzarich lahavin.
Was before Lamed Ches that Rebbe made the whole.
Lamed Zayin.
Avram Paris is convinced that Elias Simpson, Lauter Legula, Lauter Tshuva, it's happening right now, and he should sell all his chischanot, his savings.
Did he?
Yes. All his savings that he had for his children in retirement, he sold.
And where is it now?
What do you mean? No, he sold, meaning he
divested
himself.
Eliyahu, the chiz, yeah. Well, l'cheir tzarich lahavin, chapter 174, and l'cheir we have to understand. Seemingly we have to understand. Ma'achad ateirim mebchina zu, hirak simchas lev v'shashuya melach. Being that the level of this Torah, on this level that we spoke, is simchas lev v'shashuya melach. This is the lashon in Tanya. This is the joy of the heart of the pleasures of the king. Like in Tanya, it says, not simchas levav enesh v'shashuyev. It's not our playthings. It's not on our terms. It's on the Eibishter's terms. V'hu inyan shashua hamel batz musei. And this is the idea of shashua hamel batz musei. The shashuya literally means the playthings. To play, shashuyim.
Play that brings you joy.
Toys. That
brings you joy.
Yeah. Pleasurable activities, of the king within his own core. Before you use the lashon Ki Elikim Haven Darka. I think it's a Hemshech Halashon. Elikim Haven Darka v'lo yoda inish erka. No, Haven Darka is apostle. Okay, and no person knows its value, its quality. Im kein man nenish David bezeh shayi mishabeach zatera u'misameach b'bchinas simchas lev enish v'shashuv. So that's the case. That it's something beyond us. We don't know what it is. So why was David punished? Because he praised the Torah and took pleasure of a human being's joy and entertain and delight. It's out of our domain. So why is he punished for something that's beyond us? What else should David do? You're telling me about a level of Torah that's beyond a human being. You're punishing David for not talking about that, but talking about how it relates to him. That's the question here, apparently, right? I think so.
Yeah.
He's obviously David at Yegedavus. That's the point. That even this, in other words, what he's asking really, unless they use the Lashon Chassidus, what do you want from us about Er HaBligvul? We relate to God as He relates to us. You give me life, I say thank you. You know, say what would we say? Birchas Hananim. You give me food, so I say Baruch Hashem Sonas Hakel. You know, we say Shahakel. We say brachas. On what? On things that God related. Fine. Er HaGvul. What are you telling me that I have to know about Er HaBligvul? Er HaBligvul is your domain. We're creatures of finite creatures. Why are we being punished, so to speak, or demanded to know Bligvul? I'm just rephrasing the question. Obviously, the answer is going to be because now you have Bligvul in you too, and you could access it. That's the point.
But is it just a classical kasha?
No, which is really what you could say about Nigla or Litvak or someone is saying. Nigla is a Torah I could relate to. I can count it. Right. I can count money. I can count this. Talking to me about metaphysics, it's not in our world. Ein lo ne'esek b'nestaris, malachov and malach, mashal ponim malach. What's the lashon? Malafonim malach. It's beyond us. All the lashons. Hashem nestaris laHashem Elokeinu, haniglas lanu v'neinu. I'm just rephrasing the question.
But what's ironic? It strikes me as ironic here is that even this, of all the 24 books of Tanakh, David HaMelech's Psalms is the most godly one, least dealing with the physical world that I'm aware of. I mean, of any of them.
I know
Esther is a story.
It's interesting.
All these stories.
You got it. It's a very good point.
So,
it just shows you.
I mean, all his books praise of God, talk about God.
So where does that leave us? The answer is that even that is still. I'm saying even that is still not. Yeah, it just shows you how much to climb. There's a lot to climb.
His book was very much talking about his difficulties.
Not so. It's still Haluka. Everything is praise God, think of God, sing to God.
And still, that's the whole point. And still,
God's name is mentioned more in Tehillim than any other sefer in Tanakh.
Yeah, it talks so much.
It's all about godliness. It's not stories about even Shir Shirim.
No, one second.
Stories.
But you have to understand.
In our world.
But one second. That's compared to other books. But compared to Shashur, to what God is like on His own, the Tehillim is just the tip of the iceberg. That's the point. How do you like that? Can you accept that? That God is beyond Tehillim too?
Yeah. That's amazing. I don't know how you...
So what could he do?
What
could he do more than that?
Right.
Look.
I mean,
if you guys are not ready to accept that God is beyond even Tehillim,
Yeah, He's behind, but when you're talking to a human being.
I mean, think about that.
Look. Let's not play games here. Chassidus is an interface with God on God's terms is real. It's not a joke. When we say God's terms, we really mean God's terms. And Chassidus is not ashamed to go all the way to the top. And all the way to the top is parts of the Torah that are beyond anything that is human. That's the whole point. That's why I keep saying it. I say it every class. The Chiddush of Chassidus is the interface is all the way with Atzmus. You can make a very strong argument, and many do. The whole Litvish world does. And let's say even from a philosophical point of view. I don't know if they do. I know we can make Chassidus, you can make an argument for them. That the relationship we have with Elikus is with And of course, that's in the structure. What do you want us to go to? Places outside the structure. We're human beings. What do you want from us? Or b'lashon, what we say, musar, not musar. Shiflus ha'adam, a little gadlus hakel if we erech ha'adam, but gadlus hakel on gadlus hakel's terms, it's beyond us. You can make a very strong argument. The point of Chassidus does not suffice for that. That's exactly the point. Tilim would be the highest point in that perspective. Because your mom is speaking you're pouring your heart out to God. What more can you express from a person? But Chassidus goes further. That's the whole Chiddush here. Chassidus doesn't want just that.
So
it goes all the way to the top, my friend. That's what I'm saying to you. This is real. It's that's why it's such a Chiddush. What do you think? Alter Rebbe was a real Machadish. It's not a small matter. You could, and look, you always ask me. You could still make an argument. Even after lunch, you could still say, but maybe the other approach. So it's good to discuss it for contrast purposes. So whatever, the Havana, there's two things. Kra Lamali, Swari, Kra Lamali. You know, like that. The svara of it is because God, we want a relationship all the way, and the Eibishter wanted a full partnership, not partial. That's the Seichel Shabazeh. And the Kra is the many psukim we quote. Yedaitus Hashem, V'ahavta Hashem. The Alter Rebbe, look, everyone, we all quote this story of Alter Rebbe almost dismissively. Im Chalei Chafatzti, right? Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, ich will nicht dein Elam Habo, ich will nur dich allein. Right? Im Chalei Chafatzti. Someone say, 1 second. For most of the Jewish world, one's Gan Eden and one's Elam Haba. I don't know about Dich Alein. They don't even know what that means. Alter Rebbe comes and says, we say it, it's very Gishmak Vard. Alter Rebbe goes all the way. But 1 second, let's challenge it for a moment. What's happens? Maybe the Alter Rebbe, but the rest of us, I'd be very happy with a nice Gan Eden. I was once teaching Chassidus, and I was talking about this, and a Snagish guy says, I'd be very happy with a very nice Gan Eden. I don't need more than that,
Well, why are we laughing? He
says, just give me my retirement package.
Right.
And I can learn Torah all day.
Parachute?
Yeah, what? With many perks.
All the trimmings.
Yeah. Neni Miziv Ashchina. I'm very fine with that. Elam Haba, even better. Whatever. Elam Haba is more than Gan Eden. Alter Rebbe says no. He wants God Himself.
But everybody was taught the Elam is a praise there.
I'm saying, but I'm just. So it's a chiddush what Alter Rebbe is saying. With the famous sikha in the Memorim, Anon Nesiv Malka, was the whole mashal there, where the guy.
The king has to take whatever he wants. So he said, "I'll take the ministers. I'll take the."
Yeah, this one took this one, that one, and I want the king himself. I want the king himself. Yeah, this is the chiddush of Chassidus, and we could elaborate, but clearly you see it's going there. I mean, it's beautiful. First of all, it's a perfect. The story of David is that proof to Chassidus because he's nenesh on it. According to, if Gan Eden is enough, then why is he being nenesh? That's actually the story of David is a great raya. I'd love someone who doesn't know premise to explain the story of David. Why would he be nenesh of saying Torah is helping save my life? That's good. It's a good raya, actually. There's many rayas. Look. Learning the Alter Rebbe.
They could answer that on his level. We're not on his level.
Listen, I don't need to. By the way, I could explain it with Seichel, but for me, as I know, the Alter Rebbe is the Alter Rebbe. And when you read Tanya, you see the Alter Rebbe was Durich and Durich Nigla. He wrote a Shulchan Aruch. As people say, there's a guy that I know at Rosh Yeshiva. He's not an anti-chassid. Says to me, I don't know how. It's a proof that God exists that the Alter Rebbe wrote Shulchan Aruch because he had not wrote Shulchan Aruch. We could have dismissed you all as not knowing anything. The Alter Rebbe wrote Shulchan Aruch.
They still try to insist on that.
I understand, after the Alter Rebbe.
Try not to quote it, only the Chazal and only the Mishnah.
But the Alter Rebbe wrote Shulchan Aruch. He can't deny, and you read Shulchan Aruch, there's no effect of premise. I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's Shulchan Aruch, it's a real Shulchan Aruch with the diyukim. If you didn't know that the Alter Rebbe wrote Tanya and Chassidus, you wouldn't know from Shulchan Aruch that he's about premise HaTorah, right? It's you know Hilchos Pesach, the intricacies. Frankly, it's like a miracle. I don't know if someone learned Chassidus because you'd be so consumed with every day. But that's the Alter Rebbe, Shnei. It's unbelievable.
And this is only a part because most of it was bound.
Right. But I'm saying what we see, and that didn't take 5 minutes to write. Especially if you learn Shulchan Aruch, Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch compared to Beis Yosef and the Tur and Rambam. This guy in Shen Kamei who he went through every halacha in Shas. You ever learn it with Mikaelis? Unbelievable. You ever learn Alter Rebbe compared?
With all the ayins.
Huh?
With all the ayins.
You did? Besides the ayins, just learn the Alter Rebbe, compare just a sif with the Beis Yosef, with the Mechaber, or the Ramah, or the Tur, and so on. You can see right away. I mean, so it means. Okay, good.
But the Taka tried to deny it by bringing all the Bruder and the Chazanish. Exactly what he said.
Does it come out?
That's my friend. They've been trying to deny God from the beginning of time. It's fine with them.
Does it come out from this?
Emes Mez Titzmach. We're here to Ayin Beis. We're learning Ayin Beis. They can do whatever they want. It's Amaratzis today. The Chal, it's Amaratzis. You could say in the time of the Gra, maybe, there was a different shita they did. They were wary, Pshap Tzvi, whatever they were afraid of. But the Rebbe says, but Heinz Epmendach,
But they're not all people that had their agenda.
Yeah, I'm sure also. But I'm saying today you can't argue that it's us. That's why it's the biggest Kiddush Hashem when a Chabadnik is a Gon and Nigla and a Chassidus, and you just show that where the Torah is. It's not like.
Does it come out from our discussion here that to reach Atzmus and Dichalein, that Ayin Beis, which is like the deepest revelation of Pnimis Torah, actually is a better vehicle for doing that than Tehillim? I know it's a power. I don't want to sound heretical, but is this? Are we saying that this will eventually, in the times of Gula, will be realized as this will be even more valued? As
I wouldn't put it this way at all. First of all, one second. No. Every question is legitimate. Doesn't mean that. I'll tell you my response and my quick and unequivocal response. The Torah is Chavdal. The whole point we're learning here is that Torah is Shashuach Melech Batzmusa. Tehillim is also that. Tehillim is not David HaMelech's book. He composed it, but it became once it becomes one of the 24 Sifrei Kodesh, it's now it also has a Shashuach Melech Batzmusa element to it. So that's the first thing you have to know. Ayin Beis is revealing us that Tehillim is two sides to Tehillim too. Understand what I just said? There were Sfarim that were said, like for example Megillas Esther, they asked that it become one of the Sifrei Kodesh. Tehillim was also had to be accepted by the Eibishter to be, or else there were a lot of people said things. There's Sfarim that we call Sfarim Chitzenim, whatever, that are not part of the canon.
But it's Nigla de Torah. The Tehillim. The 24 books are Nigla de Torah.
No. When it comes to Teresh B'Ksav, we don't call it Nigla. We call it Teresh B'Ksav. It's both. Everything is in there. Everything is in there. Even Gemara. Let's step back a moment. Let's step back a second. There's one God and there's one Torah. You got that? The Torah has a body and a soul. Nigla is the body of Primus HaTorah, and Primus HaTorah is the soul of Nigla. They're not two Torahs. That's one thing. In our perception, you can see it as such. And there are rules. When you're learning, for example, Hilchos Mamonos, right, and Hilchos Nezikin, there are different rules how you apply this. There's a din halacha kirav b'mamayna, halacha k'shmul b'nesurim. So there's different sections. Obviously, you're learning the laws of Shabbos, not laws of Pesach. But there's one Torah, and Primus and Nigla are simply two dimensions of it. So that's number one. This goes from the first letter of Torah Shabbat to every word in Torah. So it's Nigla and Primus, everything intertwined. Now, in our perception, there can be a person who decides he only wants to learn Nigla and ignores the Primus HaTorah. That's what I was talking about. When it comes to David, first of all, it's not that he ignored Primus HaTorah, it's that he focused on this and that's how he praised the Torah. By making this his ultimate praise, that Torah is midas, meaning it's my song, not God's song, so to speak. But subtly, that was what we're talking about here. Not that Tehillim doesn't have it. David could have said easily, David is not midas, Shira hayalichu, then he wouldn't have this whole issue. Then he'd be talking about God's song, not my. And remember, this itself is also Torah. The story of David is meant to teach us something. So it's not like, we're not talking about.
It's Ruach HaKodesh also. Couldn't you argue that it's God's, really his words are
So my response to you is like this. That to say that we're going to learn Ayin Beis instead of Tehillim is ridiculous. That's like saying we're going to learn.
We're going to not learn it. I'm just saying a deeper vehicle, a better, a more.
No. It's all one thing. Ayin Beis teaches us the beauty of Tehillim, if you want to put it that way, and the beauty of Torah in general. That's how you can say it. Another thing you can say, there's a whole sikha from the Rebbe. When Yudas Kislev, the Rebbe, they would make Chalukas HaShas. They would divide Shas. And the Rebbe would often make a Siyum HaShas. So in the last years, I think in Nun Aleph we printed, the Rebbe's Magia, we collected all the sikhs of the Rebbe on Siyum HaShas. and it's a beautiful kuntus. I don't know if you ever saw it. So there it goes like this. It says the Alter Rebbe made a takana. Why do we make divide Shas? Because the Alter Rebbe says in the Geras HaKodesh, the whole Geras HaKodesh, the first Geras HaKodesh says, "I thank you for dividing the Shas." He says that every year Shas should be divided. But he says another thing there. Shas should be divided, and you should say Perek Tamne, Perek Kuf Yotes in Tehillim 119. Huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That nobody knows about.
Once a week.
Huh?
Once a week.
Yeah, once a week. So the Rebbe asked the question, why did Alter Rebbe say these two takanas? And he explained what we're talking about. He says, because in Torah itself, Tehillim is like Primis HaTorah. And Shas is Nigla. Alter Rebbe, who is both Shnei Eir, wanted to bring both together. Because Tehillim is a big question. Tehillim is Tefillah or it's Torah. On one hand, it's Chav Dalet Sifrei Torah. On the other hand, it's Tehillah with Tishbachos. So it's a mamutza between Tefillah and Torah. Tehillim. That's why you see Tehillim is mostly said actually not learned. We don't learn Tehillim really. I mean, you can learn it, but the Tzemach Tzedek has the Shimas, but Tehillim is mostly a prayer book. You say it. Well, most of us don't even, the words are hard to understand. It's a Tehillah and Tishbachos. The point I'm making here is that Tehillim is actually like the Primis HaTorah within Torah. Of all the Svarim. But it's all relative, obviously.
The same thing. When
Look, to say that David did not know there was higher than Zmiris, obviously he knew. There's a focus. He clearly, I guess, it's not overdo it. This isn't like David didn't know that there's Primis HaTorah. It's a question of the focus. And L'Fiyerachem, it was like Moshe hitting the rock. Compared to him, the Bedakas, it's a consider. I don't know if he's going to bavarn it, but I'm sure that that's the context.
What will happen to Pnimis HaTorah, Ayin Beis, after when Mashiach does come? How the dealing happen?
What will happen? What?
To Pnimis HaTorah, Ayin Beis, after when Mashiach does come, and now the Gilim and Mamish in front of us. We still need to learn to start.
So that's why we're preparing. We're like, this is called running the exercise. This is just doing the preliminary exercise.
Right.
Now and based on when Chassidus is really being taught, you'll be able to at least be able to say, I get 1, 2 things. This is just also the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
I think
there's a lot of icebergs to be conquered.
No, it's the same question. Why should you learn Prim Tzatayman? The Ma'ila in Gan Eden after 120.
The story with Aha.
Yeah, after 120, you'll be sitting in Gan Eden. You'll learn Prim Tzatayman. What's the use of learning it?
Talmud de Biyodeh. Misha Balakam Talmud de Biyodeh. Because if you don't have the Tzemach Tzedek answer the question, why do you talk about what?
It's the same idea.
That's not my question.
What's your question?
What's your question?
My question was, when this is all the Gilim Mamish in front of us,
Right.
the interface we see
So what do you say? So what's the question?
We had to read it in the book. We'll just experience it.
Mibasar, Elokai, Exa, Elokai, you just...
So what's your question? I don't understand. So your question is what?
We won't need this.
We won't need to say.
We'll need
We'll experience godliness on such a deep level that we won't need to look at it in a book.
Now we need it. That's very.
Is that what you're asking?
But then we'll be.
No, that's not correct. Not correct what you're saying.
Huh?
What is correct?
You will understand it in a higher level.
What is correct?
Because it's Torah. Maybe it's the Torah.
Very simple. I've said it's discussed as you can't come up with an answer to this. Do you think this is like an amusement park? That once you get into the playground, like you
Pick it to go in any ride you want.
That's what it sounds like. You sound like
Well, what is the answer? I can make up one.
It's very simple. The point of the whole thing is an interface that us human beings, with our seichel and midas on our terms, should relate to God. This is an endless journey. There will also be seichel and midas. You'll also need to learn, and you'll also be climbing. There's no such thing as it's Ein Sof. So you'll need to learn, and there'll be things you feel and then the things you'll learn more until you get to feel that. It's a constant journey. That's what it comes down to. And we'll have minds then too, except the big difference is that today the battle is between good and evil. The battle is between whether you're going to focus on materialism and your own selfish needs, or a little elikus. That's the battle. Then it's going to be elikus and more elikus. And that will be the battle, so to speak.
Gan Eden is level after level after level.
And even beyond Gan Eden.
There's amazing will be
No, the chorah nothing. It's endless periods. It never stops. What do you need more? God Himself created an existence to dir b'tachtenim, and God doesn't need anything. So clearly, even God, so to speak, is on an endless journey. He wanted it. We didn't create this situation. He created this mess, so to speak. And He wanted, because on a taiva, like the Rebbe said, God has a desire. How much, but He has a desire. However you explain it, that's why we don't understand whatever. But you see from that this is never a journey that ends. And there's nothing to be afraid of, by the way. That's what I'm saying. This world, you see, we live in a world where everything is with time and space has endings. Like you say, you know what, the project is over. I can now relax. We all wait for those moments, right? Shabbos is coming. The weekend, the vacation, the summer, whatever. Talmid Chacham, they have no problem with. See, by us, menucha and lack of menucha are associated with health and non-health. I don't want to be anxious. I want to be relaxed. By a Talmid Chacham, he's not anxiety. His not menucha is not that he's anxious. It's that he's restless. He's never satisfied with yesterday's accomplishments. See, for us, our perception is enough with Golas, enough of the aggravation we've had in this world, death, illness, psychological, etc. And Mashiach comes, enough of that, which is fine. This is fine on a very basic level. But for a Talmid Chacham, the wish for Geula is not just because enough of tzaddus. It's because when you have a Likus, his restlessness, you saw with the Rebbe all the time, the restlessness was not because of anxiety, because there was that element that he wanted to end Golos. But there was a restlessness in Kedusha. You're never satisfied. For us, that's really uncommon. That's why we don't relate to it. For us, restlessness is associated with negative things. To relate to restlessness that's associated with it's like a person who learns and has to go now to work. So he's restless, he can't get back, wait to get back to a sefer. That type of restlessness is an example of Kedusha. That's the key. And why shouldn't that go on forever? If that would stop, it would be like the worst thing possible. It would have been stopped. How could such a journey stop? What you want to stop is the bad stuff. You don't want to stop the good growth. No, it's an important point to make, because I see this with people. Like when someone said to me, someone thinks the Gemara says, it means that it never will rest. Yeah. That's the real thing, never rests. Life never rests. Imagine your breath stops, God forbid. Huh? You don't want life to stop. You want the negative to stop. But most of our lives is involved with battling demons. Let's be honest. We want the end of illness. So you could almost say that, the Rambam writes that Loinus Sava Chachamim from Mashiach only to have Menuchas HaNefesh to be able to learn Torah and Kaim Mitzvahs, which really means that almost like David in a way, they want the Geula to have to be not relaxed to God forbid to do nothing, to learn. But there's a whole other element of wanting Geula because there's a Gilei Likus that it will be then. That is unprecedented. But that's in Shmuel says, Ein bein Meshmesh Mashiach Elam Haz El Shibud Malchus Levad, because that's what disturbs our ability to be. According to Rambam, Mashiach is basically Shleimus Torah Mitzvahs. We can't do all the Torah Mitzvahs today. First of all, Begashmis, we can't, because there's no Beis HaMikdash, and secondly, Menuchas HaNefesh. We have daigas, we have all kinds of worries. Besides enemies, even just daigas HaParnas is enough. But then there's a whole other dimension. I'm telling you, this is revolutionary, because if you go to if you want a mainstream Jewish approach, you could say, I just want the end of the problem. Going back to what we spoke earlier. Who says, I cried Rosh Hashanah because my life isn't working. I don't cry because Elikus is not revealed. Huh? Right. Like the guy who was by the Frierdiker, used to have unbelievable, for hours with daven Rosh Hashanah, and the tears were unbelievable. People used to cry by Tkir Sefer. As much as the Rebbe cried, it was like they say 20 times more. And there was once a Jew there, but a worldly guy. He didn't, Avelta Shid, how do you say that? Not a worldly. Avelta Shid. He said he has such a beautiful wife and children and a family, such chassidim. Why is he crying? Understand? Why else do you cry? Because you have a problem. Or the Rebbe Rashab cried because God didn't reveal Himself to him, only to Avram. If you can't even understand such crying. Why would you cry? You're not feeling good. Did you fall? No, because Vayera Avram, and to me He didn't reveal Himself. Who cries about things like that? I'm saying this has a lot to do with our discussion here. So let's go on.
Period of Review will be more people.
You gotta get a second. There's a whole sichas of the Rebbe. There's tkufas. First of all, there's the Rebbe's big two tkufas. There's one tkufa where everything is going to be the same and there's no shinui teva. That's for sure.
That's where we're now.
That's close. Okay, but even with Beis Hamikdash, I'm saying even with Beis Hamikdash, there'll be a tkufa where that says Elam Kiminogi. You don't need to have you don't need to have miracles. So that's a lashon in the Gerasa case Simcha Chavav. He brings that as a raya to the first kufa. That's why you'll still need the Hilchas Nida and Hilchas Isurim. He brings that, but then he says that Seitat kufa is mitzvahs ptelis lasalov. Alter Rebbe brings this befedish in the Simcha Chavav. I'm quoting. No Simcha Chavav, you'll have all your answers. He speaks there befedish about what you.
Physicality is not going to be in the second cheder.
No, second cheder there's still physicality, and then there's a third dimension where then Chat Charuv is a whole different reality.
Third dimension.
Yeah, it's three at the end, but they don't talk about Chat Charuv too much because it's a mystery. It's like Shmaim Chadoshim, Varis Chadosh, was mentos.
But everything that is being talked about, the goal is about Chat Charuv.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's usually talk more Yemesa Mashiach and Tchis HaMesim.
When is Ein L'Aser Elokim? When does that?
What?
When does it come out? The Gila, the idea of Ein L'Aser Elokim.
There's levels. It's in all the levels. The Yemesa Mashiach is one dimension. Tchis HaMesim for sure. The Loshenis, if you want to know the exact language, like for example, when you say Elam Abba Im Le'achil V'Le'Shtiyah. So according to the Taij, that is Gan Eden, it means that. But according to our Taij, that is Tchis HaMesim. So the Rebbe explains that's the Tkufa Shniyah, where there'll be a Shinri in Teva, that the body will not need Achil V'Shtiyah, and there will be Misa anymore. The laws of nature will change in the second Tkufa. The first Tkufa, not the second Tkufa. Then there's another stage called Chat Charuv, which is after. That's already, I guess, a whole different reality begins.
The second Tkufa.
It's discussed a little, and you'll find in some places discussed. It discusses a new order. You'll find that Tzemach Tzedek has whole pieces on that.
Really?
Chat Charuv. Look in Sefer Lekutim on the Erech Chat Charuv.
No more people, no more
What?
new people.
What?
In the second kufa, it's not going to
I can't hear you. What?
In the second kufa, it's not going to be any more period of review, no more people will be born.
In Tchis HaMesim, it says, what does that mean? First of all, there's this expression, Asid Isha Shtel B'chol Yem. So there's that. Didn't say no one will be born. I said the law of the death won't exist. You have to look at the Maimar Chazal. It's not anything goes. Whatever the Chazal say, that's what we know. And then the Rambam says that which we don't know, we don't know. Most of it we don't know. What we do know is L'shenis like El Ma'be'em Ba'achil V'Shti. We know Asid Isha Tel B'chol Yem, which is not natural. That has to be the second kuf.
It's one thing.
It's basically Lo Yeh Eloni Sirak. This says Nidal to Tayr Losad Lavi, Chazad to Tayr Losad Lavi. This has to all be in the second kufa. Mitzvahs B'telis. What does that mean exactly? However you touch it, but that's all the second kufa. For sure, the second kufa.
Chat Charuv is completely a new thing to me.
Yeah, Chat Charuv is a completely new. Yeah.
20-50 years.
Right. It's only
No, Chat Charuv can be later. It could be another. It could be later than that.
7,000 year. It's the Shabbos.
So
It's the seventh generation.
I thought that.
No, first of all, it doesn't say that. Hold on a second. It says Shitav V'Shin Havalma. Then the seventh Yom Shekul Shabbos Menucha. Chat Charuv could be after that.
Could be after that, so it's not the seventh.
And then there's Trei Charuv. There's two opinions.
It's a fact that
There's different.
Shita Avishneim, and then Chat Charuv.
Who's the two opinions? I mean, the resolve.
The Gemara. No. The Gemara says Chat Charuv 1,000 or 2,000. The explanation basically Yom Shekul Shabbos is like, let's say the 7,000th. There's also stages. There's also stages.
But 250 years.
250 years from today is the
From today.
Less than 250 already.
Less, because Mashiach has to come 40 years before Tchias HaMesim. Let's stay here. 40 years before Tchias HaMesim is less than 250 years.
Why are you pushing this up for 250 years? The Rebbe said it's now.
Earlier.
227.
You already thrown the towel?
I know. 227 years.
No, there's earlier than that. There's Shkia Gdela, there's Mincha Gdela, there's Paga Mincha.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I plan on this happening in our lifetime. So Eliezer, stop counting these years and stop being an actuary here. Give me
227.
Okay, can we learn inside here? It's not going to happen unless we figure this out here.
You know, Zimri ben Solo was 250 years old.
Who was?
Zimri ben Solvo,
Yeah.
the one that killed him. It was the Nasi of Shevet Shimon. It was Shevet. He wanted to protect his life.
V'yesh leimer, to answer this question, so why was David nenash on something that is completely beyond humans? So God has his little domain there, has his secret domain that's beyond us, and David is nenash because he doesn't go there. V'yesh leimer, the kamei be'inyan ha-mitzvahs, so just like it is with mitzvahs, in the mitzvahs, hariyesh b'zeh beis inyanim. There are two things in this. Kavanas ha-mitzvahs, the intention of the mitzvahs, b'chinas hamshacha pratisha b'chol mitzvah b'frat. So kavanas ha-mitzvahs, there's every mitzvah has its particular transmission, its particular force, energy that it draws down. Each particular detailed mitzvah. Shelazet tzarich li is hakdama b'av v'yireh. Because for this, you need to have a preface, an introduction, b'ava v'yireh. To have this kavanah, you have to think about loving and the awe of God or respect. V'hainu, shebetchilat tzarich leida hakavanah. Before you do them, in the beginning, you need to know the intention. V'hu hasod Hashem shebechol mitzvah. The sod, seideh, the secret of God in every mitzvah. But tzarich li is seidus ava lelakus. It has to be an awakening of love to godliness. And through this you perform the mitzvah properly. Like it says in Saint Tanya, and who performs mitzvahs in truth? Who wears this? Is this Perek Lamed Ches?
Dalit.
This is Dalit?
Dalit, yeah.
That's Lashon is Dalit? Okay, maybe later also. That who performs the mitzvahs in truth? The one that loves Hashem and chayfetz and desires to cleave to Him, to bind with Him, bond with Him. And through this, you draw down the energy into your soul and also into the world. And through this, there's a celebration and pleasure, his celebration and pleasure in the performance of the mitzvah. He's all talking here about kavanah pratis. And the bittul bazeh, the bittul of the person's bittul, meaning his subjugation, is only the revelation, the giluyim of Ein Sof. The b'derech klal b'chinas haratzon, which in general means, the ratzon, the desire of Hashem, the hainu b'chinas chitzeni is prati shebechol mitzvah v'mitzvah. I'm sorry, b'chinas haratzeni is prati shebechol mitzvah v'mitzvah. So what's the bittul here? Oh, it's how are you drawing this down? By you subjugating yourself to the specific desires in each mitzvah. Befrat, the dita, shebezehu ha-bittul shalei. And this is his bittul. In this specific detail is his avekleg. How do you say avekleg? His dedication, his giving himself away, so to speak, to the higher desire. And this he has celebration, is a small celebrates in the revelation of this energy, this light of the Oira Rotzen, the energy of the Rotzen, Hashem's Rotzen. That's Eif and Aleph. So let's sum up before he goes to 2. There's 2 things. This is the kavan in each specific mitzvah. There's a particular detail, let's say tefillin. The bracha, the tefillin, the kavanas, and it's all prefaced by you having a contemplation and a love for Hashem. And it's connected to a particular desire in that particular mitzvah. Va'efen ha'beis, that's Efen Aleph. He said beis inyan. The second way is ukim ha'mitzvah b'chinas avedis eved l'kaim ritzenis baruch levad. So in the first way, the focus was not just to keep God's desire, not just to fulfill God's will, but a specific hamshacha that you were bringing down in a particular mitzvah. Here the focus is on God. Avedis eved, the work of a servant, to perform, to kayim, to fulfill or carry out God's will and desire alone. Not in order to draw down any energy into His spirit or into the world. And the first thing, the kavanah is to draw down something specific in this particular area. Here, it's just to fulfill the desire. Remember we spoke about the difference between the chief of staff and the head of a department. So the God, let's say the Melech, has a chief of staff. He works for him. Chief of staff meets with the king in the morning. The king says, this is what I want done today. I want here, go to the army, to go to here deal with the economy, here deal with these issues, deal with these issues. He then goes to heads of all these departments and says, shliach here, shliach. The head of the department has to go and focus on what the job was. They all know it's the king's will, but the focus is on getting the job done. The chief of staff, for him, there's no difference whether it's going to gather salt or going to fight a war or going to collect taxes. We're going to spread the king's or dig a well. His thing is Ratzon Hashem. Whatever the Eibishter wants, I'm here. And both are necessary. So he's explaining. One is so-called the Kavanah Prati. So one is Shebechol Mitzvah is the Seid Hashem Bechol Mitzvah. And that's in the specific. And here, it's not negated. I'm sure that it's illuminating my spirit, my soul, and changing the world. Rak l'kaim rotzeni yisbarach. Va'bitl b'zeh is not to Giluyim. The first one, the bitl is to the Giluyim, the specific Gilui that's being revealed. Here the bitl is le'ensev b'al harotz and last is kol mashur rotzeni yisbarach. Here the bitl is to the ensev bal harotz, nicht the rotzen. The bal harotz, the one, the owner of all the rotzenis, the source of all the wills. To do, Lasa is to fulfill everything that he wants, God wants. And B'chal not important to him, not relevant to which is the mitzvah. If they told him to go chop wood, it's also good. It's from the Kutateri says this, but it's good. Yeah. But here he goes even more. He says, Gam ken teif, it's good. Being that his bittul is to the balarotz, and whatever he tells me to do, I'm dedicated to whatever he wants. Whatever kol mashur changes. And now he's adding that is this second thing. The first one also has v'yesh b'zegam kein simcha shel mitzvah. This too has a simcha shel mitzvah. The first one, we understand the simcha shel mitzvah because you're dealing with a particular, let's say, something that has a specific value, a specific benefit. Here, the chiddush to say there's simcha shel mitzvah, but also has simcha shel mitzvah. Why? Here, the simcha is not what you're getting from it, or the world is getting. Yeah. This is the joy, this is the celebration and the pleasure that you fulfilled the divine desire. Not that t'em good, that it was good to him, shaloi, for him it was good, this light and revelation. But rather, by the fact that he now fulfilled the desire of the God, shenasim is a nachas ruach lamayla, and from this caused a great nachas ruach, a pleasure above, ukamayim nachas ruach lafonai. Shamati v'nasa d'tzein. That because we say nachas ruach before me, shashuya hamelach. In other words, you see, he's introducing even to us the Eibishter's. So this is a nigla dikaraya, by the way. This is not a chsiddush. If we bring a raya up in nigla, even that there is an element in mitzvahs that is about God and not about us.
Is it nigla?
Nachas ruach l'fonai is amayim chazal. A few things. I mean, you could bring proofs to it, but the English nachas ruach l'fonai, famir. Obviously, you could be deichik and say it's a nachas for me because you're doing it for you. But
it goes on the Keteris, the regular korbanos. You had a benefit from it also because it would get you soon.
Is that pshat? Yeah, that's good. That's very good word.
It said the reich nechoyach by every korban.
Yeah,
the
Iker, I think where it says the.
By the way, this teichen we've learned before. You remember which chapters? This goes back a long time. You know where it is by the difference between rotzen and keiches hanefesh. That keiches is the keiches. The rotzen is to do the rotzen. Remember, it took a whole thing about masha tevle. For quite a number of times we learned this sugya. Is you doing it because it's good for me, or you're doing it because it's what the Eibishter wants?
I talked about the blank. The blank. You have to give away all your tzeinis.
Yeah. I have to look up, but we definitely had 2 or 3 times this theme is a consistent, because this theme is probably by color white. Yeah, by the color white.
That is totally blank. It's white.
And then there's that level that's even higher.
Mixed into it.
But there's 3 levels. There's color, and then there's white that's beyond color, and then there's beyond even white.
Then
that's
it's
complete.
Clear.
Yeah, because you see in Aveda, the Aveda of the Era Bligvul is for Hashem. The Teira Gvul is for us. So in Teira 2, the Primis HaTeira, so that's why he's bringing these two things. It's all, this is not a side show here. This is all the theme that we've been learning. This is a Lakus on Lakus terms. But again, if you only have the Klal and not the Prat, it's also them to snishdur us. So you need both all the time. Okay, so that's good. Now, in this itself, there's different levels. You could have that the simcha is that because I'm happy because there's an I fulfilled the higher desire and I caused nachas ruach. So good. It's not negated to you what you benefit, but you benefit the mere fact that I'm enjoying that I caused it. That he has pleasure that he merited to fulfill the higher desire of Hashem, and causing pleasure above. This too is in the second level, not the first. It's also the work of a servant. But here the pleasure is not the pleasure what you gain personally, the Amshacha Pratis, let's say made you more refined or makes you this, is because you merited this. For example, like a simple person of the king commands him to do something, and he serves him. He serves him in this. This causes great joy that he merited to serve the king. The same thing is the example. This is an example. Became a mitzvah in the fulfillment of a mitzvah. The pleasure and the joy and the pleasure that he merited to fulfill the desire and to cause pleasure. But that's a lower level. Then comes in this gufa a higher level. Well, a mailam is higher than this. Higher level is that there's a pleasure, a joy and a pleasure that the Ratzon Elyon was fulfilled. Not that I fulfilled it. I was zeicha. There was no I. And the nachas ruach was caused above. It's more than nifl. He says, Loi mamashachu Paul v'asa. There's less him. Not that he caused it. In other words, a nafkamina halacha would be like this. According to the first pshat, if I didn't cause it and someone else did it, I wouldn't have the same pleasure. Here, the second level doesn't make a difference. The God done, I don't care who did it.
It's more connected.
Right. The God done, the killing. In the first level, both but the first level, the whole thing is about you. Not the whole thing is about you, I can't say that. It's a mitzvah, but the whole thing is about bringing it down into a particular hamshacha. Like I said before, to get the job done. You're not even focusing on what it's doing l'mayla. Like, the guys that are, let's say, digging the well, they were told the king wants it, but their job is to get the job done. They're happy, they got the job done. They're happy with the job, great, pay me, right. But the second level, the second madrega, the lower one, is that I fulfilled the king's desire. And that's what's negated to me. And the third one, it's not even that there's an I that fulfilled anything.
That it was done.
That it was done. Now apply this, let's say, to us. He wasn't to us about our fights.
But he wasn't a fair competition that others.
Like someone say, I'm not doing it for me. The Rebbe wants me to do it. You know that one? Huh? So some Dafen Weisen der Stickel. The Rebbe wants you to do it. So fine, so let someone else do it. No, but the Rebbe will as ich soll es tun. That's what I'm saying. Like the story, Rabbi who's the rabbi in the Rav in Ashkenazi, Rav Ashkenazi in Kfar Chabad? Not him. Who was before him? Garelik?
No, it was Rav Nachum Karnik.
Oh, he was in between.
Yeah.
So I think it was Ashkenazi or maybe Garelik. He said the only dintera he could never resolve was the one between Rabbi Perman from the Matzah Bakery and Rav from Tzach, I think he's in Solebov. Says why? Because after Pesach, Solebov used to order thousands of pounds of matzahs for the soldiers. After Pesach came a bill. Solebov told Perman, It's nicht meine matzahs. It's the Rebbe's matzahs. It's for the soldat. It's not mine. I didn't buy them for me personally. So Perman answered, but you think I baked them? The Rebbe baked them. It's the Rebbe's baked matzah bakery. So that was the din Torah. The Rebbe's matzah bakery, he's baking the matzahs for the Rebbe's soldat. So it's the same entity. So I should have asked how did he resolve it. For me, I'd be mavated. I'd be by all means. The Rebbe's matzahs.
The Rebbe's camp. The Rebbe's camp.
Very good. So this we also learned that it's only negeya the nachas ruach itself. The only thing is that through this mitzvah was nishlam, the nifl. The desire of the higher desire was fulfilled. V'nasa nachas ruach lamayla, and there's a nachas ruach above. So this alone, he celebrates and has pleasure. Imagine celebrating a pleasure of someone else doing the mitzvah, but the mitzvah got done. Very good. Now it reminds me, because someone said, I remember after Gimel Tammuz, about an asking here told me, now we'll see who's the real mother. The Bavus Tamais V'Shleim HaMelech, right? The mother. So they said, cut the child in half. And the mother said, no way. He said, that's when you see the real mother. Let's see. Someone says, no, I want the position because the Rebbe put me here. I don't mind if the child is cut in half and there's Chilul Hashem and fights and all that, but at least I have to be the one. Or the real mother would say, as long as Lubavitch is surviving and there's no machlekes and everything is good, fine, you want to call yourself the mother, you call yourself the mother, but I want my child to be complete. How many people you think like that? That's the emes. A mom is negay the kind, nicht negay sich. Right? Apply this. Huh? Not so sure. You're not sure who the real mother is? The joke goes the other way around with the mother-in-law that says cut him in half, with the son-in-law. I have my grandmother Lipsker. That time was stamped from there's this Mordechai Yafe. They call the Levush, the Levush one. So they call the how do they call the family? Mayam Yafe. Anyway, Mordechai Yafe. He was called Yafe because he's very handsome, by the way. And he wrote 10 levushim. You talk about garments. He wrote 10 levushim because he had a whole nisayon. Yeah, mit der Isha. And they ganze meist mit dem. No, he was not ever on his sins, but he was caught in a situation, a compromising situation. After that, he wrote the 10 levushim al Hatikun. And
he compromised.
He didn't compromise. He was in a situation that could have. He ran away, and he gemacht a klole. As alle seine Kinder sollen sein Mies.
Soll sein?
Mies. Ugly.
Oh, Mies.
Yeah.
Wow.
So by our family, we always wonder how many generations this curse goes for. Because his beauty was a sign for
400 years ago, right?
Yeah. So we stopped from him. Anyway, so it's a beautiful story. I just want to say, so once two Idnas came to him, two women came, there was a fight, they were neighbors. And so on, and then linen was expensive. One of them had hung out a very beautiful, I think tishtach or tablecloth or something like that. And the other one, they're both claiming it's theirs. So how do you resolve this? So he asked them to both look at it. Yeah, no, it's mine. This one said it's mine. This one said it's mine. She said, leave it here overnight, and I'll decide tomorrow. They left it. He asked his wife. He says, can you find a tablecloth that looks like this one? So she found one. She had one. The next day, he shows them the second tablecloth. He says, so tell me, look at it again. One woman says, yeah, it's for sure mine. The other one says, no, I look at it again now, it doesn't really look like mine. So he knew right away. So he took out the other one and said, gave it to her. And he tells the one that was claiming that it was this, now you have a din Torah with my wife. It's a good chachma. I'm saying, because like a Shleim HaMelech Ma'aseh Bisl. Because someone who really owns it is going to know that's who's the better Zerlich. Okay. ולא ממשהו פול ונעשו, כי מה שהאדם מצד נשלו זה למעלה שמח וזה. ובזה גוף המדרגה היסר עליין בזה, looks like he's going even weiter, and this itself, the highest level, היסר עליין, הוא שהשמחה והענג של המעלה זה עצמי הוא השמחה והענג שלה. It's a little more dakazdik. In this level that we just said, the joy is not his, the joy is that the king's joy. And here goes even deeper. It's not like I have joy from him. Whatever he has joy in, I automatically have joy. So there's not even that. Because in the second level, you can still say, I didn't do it. Someone else was Mekayim it, fulfilled it. But I have joy because he has joy. Here he's saying, yeah. Not only that he has joy and pleasure, in the joy and pleasure that was caused above. Does guf is ein simcha. So what's the nafkamina here? What would be the nafkamina between this? We have three levels here, gufa, in this higher level.
Here, he's completely bottled. It makes him happy.
But give me a nafkamina. What would be a practical nafkamina? Like the other one, there's nafkamina is whether it doesn't get done by him. Here, it's not getting done by him, but he has pleasure in the pleasure that the God has. And here,
After Israel, you find this.
What?
After Israel, you find this, I think. You know, you're privileged to help somebody else. Are you happy that they're happy? Or is their happiness your happiness?
Yeah. Let's say, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
No, but what's the difference between 2 and 3? That's the question.
Your happiness is, their happiness, moment your happiness.
And level 2 is what?
They're happy.
You're happy that they're happy.
But that's not your happiness. You don't take part.
It's a different level of happiness.
You don't feel their happiness is yours.
You're happy for them, so to speak. And here, it's not because for them. That's happy. That is what makes you happy. What makes you happy is that person is happy.
Or you feel moms feel to take part of the happiness.
Okay, I'm just trying to find if there's enough kamina, whether there would be enough kamina.
There is enough kamina.
No, I understand we understand there's a difference. I'm just trying to explain it in some real practical difference. The practical difference would be the first one. Okay, the first one, if I do it, my simcha is from me doing it. So that we don't have. You're not doing it, but you're happy because the king is happy. In the last level, there's no me altogether. There's not even a me. It's that the king is happy. I'll tell you what the nafkamina would be. In the second level, you may have happiness from other things, and you also have happiness from the king being happy. In the third level, there is nothing except the only thing that makes you happy is when the king is happy. So there's no life of your own.
It's like with Rabbi Al-Shabbat. He fainted. Why did he faint? Chofetz Chaim told him about it. We did everything that we could.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Yeah. I'm gonna. This week also, I'm not gonna teach on this till later. Friday probably. Yeah. I'll let you know. One second. Well, let me say. Are we stopping here? I just want to see where. Okay, we'll stop here. So we did the first half of chapter 174. We did page 352. Okay.